What's happening, folks? Welcome to Jig Squad Live. People will start coming in the room, and I'll say hi to peeps. What's going on, guys? I just decided a little while ago, we're going to jump on and do this for a while. That's a lot of red. I'll change this up in a little bit. It's a lot of red. I have to adjust this. Oh, maybe it's a little better when I sit back. Yeah, whatever. I really don't care. Maybe I'll block one of them like this. We'll do that. All right. Let's get going. Jig making is on the order for tonight. But while I'm here, I'm just going to start getting ready, getting cleaned up a little bit. What's happening, peeps? As people come in. Frank. Right, Frank? Yeah, all kinds of fun things. I'm going to bring up, let me bring up YouTube just in case so I can see what this thing looks like. So I'll jump into that too. Why am I not signed in? I should be signed in. Hold on. I got to sign in there too. So just bear with me a few minutes, folks. Last minute, decided to jump on. This is fine. We can get going. Two-factor authentication. Yes, great. I understand. They want me to open the YouTube app on my phone. Yes, it's me. It's Kuda. Wi-Fi. Yes, it's me. All right, guys. Let's get YouTube going. I know I'm up and about already. Let's see. Let's go. Just in case any kookadoos come in, because I'm going to throw some things out there tonight. Here we go. Live. 8 people in a row. All right. Let's mute that. All right. Frank, Dave, what's happening, boys? All right. Now I'm back in the StreamYard. Perfect. All right, guys. Listen, hey, I just wanted to jump on tonight, say hi. I had every intention of coming down here. I got a lot to clean up. I don't mind showing people. There's a lot going on here. A lot of cleanup that has to be done. Bassing with Big Malone. What's up, brother? I wanted to jump on tonight. We'll see. Some people will jump in when they see this. It was a last minute decision. You guys know I don't have anything regular going on with this lately, but I decided I wanted to say some things. Matt, what's going on? Matt, you know what? I'm sitting there and I'm like, I think I might have a little delay. That's all right. Sorry. How's the delay? Pretty bad? Or is it close? Yeah, I don't know. I'm down in the basement, guys. I'm like a troll. So these things happen. So it's not going to matter. I mean, I'm going to be talking anyway, right? So let's see what happens. Nah, it's good to you. Close enough, right? All right, guys. So listen, I wanted to get on tonight and I just wanted to BS a little bit. I really thought I was going to come down here and just like clean. And I'm like, no, I mean, who wants to watch people just like clean their stuff and like straighten up while they're on? Tahoe Bass Life, what's up, buddy? So I don't know. I just want to get on. So I haven't had regular shows. So I just wanted to get on and talk. So as you could see by the title, I'll wait a little bit to get into it. We'll see if anyone else jumps in. What have I been up to? I have been, yeah, right, Matt, like a Travis Manson special. I have been making jigs, and I've kind of been getting myself squared away for 2024. What does that mean? I don't know. No real wild, crazy plans. I am going to make some decisions about some things soon. Oh, good, Frank. 4 a.m. vacation. That's awesome, dude. So I'll make some decisions in terms of what I'm going to do for next year. But I mean, the one thing I know that I'm doing is I'm making jigs, right? I'm going to make those finesse footballs, and I love them. I love using them. I may decide to. I'm very seriously considering making, um, I don't want to call it finesse. I'm very seriously considering making a swim jig in my colorways. So what I nothing it's not going to be some unique design. It's going to be that classic conical head design, like almost like the old school spinnerbait heads. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's just a classic conical type of head, and I'm not doing them with eyes like the poison tails. And Grant, what's going on? Oh, Grant from Australia. Fantastic. Good morning to you. Um, it's just going to be a classic old school head design. But the thing is, I'm going to have a great hook inside of it, and it's going to have a wire keeper and a weed guard. So for anyone that doesn't like the footballs, because it doesn't have a weed guard and is looking for a swim jig with a weed guard, which I would almost prefer not to have it. But if you're fishing grass or you want to be running it through timber a little bit, you want to have that weed guard. I'm pretty much considering doing that. Frank, by the way, um, school has been crazy the last week and a half, 2 weeks. And so my evenings have been pretty slowed down. So Little Rich, how are you, bub? I'm gonna be so it's been hectic, but your stuff is everything's all made up, all the heads are done, and your stuff will be done before the weekend's out. And then I'll get it in the mail. Um yeah, okay. So Matt's saying, Bass, how are you, buddy? So that gives you an idea. Like that's a swim jig. So I'm talking about doing that swim jig. Matt is saying I would like to see a darter hair. Let me just bring it up. I'll highlight it just because, of course, I'm grabbing a mouse and I can just use this. Okay, so I would like you to see a darter hair jig from Yakuta. Seems like those are gaining attention. Even Duo has made one recently and coming to US soon. You know, it's funny you say that, Matt, because that's something like I have in my head too. Um, for whatever reason, I decided when I said I'm going to sell jigs, I decided that I'm only going to sell a couple different types of jig. Well, really, it was only the football, but now I said I want to sell the other colorways because people want them in a swim jig. So, the hair jig stuff, there's like a lot of good hair jig people out there, right? And I thought about it and I'm like, no, that's why I went back to the silicone because I knew my bread and butter was the silicone, right? And there's a lot of good silicone jig makers out there, but like I said, my colorways are my colorways, and I design them very specifically for unique reasons, and they're not like anyone else in swim jigs. There's good swim jigs out there, but or football jigs or finesse football, but no one comes out with the colorways that I have, and so that's my thing. Um, Larry, what's going on, buddy? Michael Bradley, how are you? Yeah, so I don't know. So these are some things I'm thinking about. I have another couple ideas. I don't. I'll tell you a little bit about one of them. I am thinking about doing a 90-degree ball head jig for like just some limited runs. How do I describe this? It will it will be I'm going to make them on with a hook that no one else uses. That's not entirely true. There are only a couple of jig companies that use it. When I say a couple, not many. And so I may be making something that other people aren't making. Why? Because I want to, because I like the hook, and no one else is using it, right? So Frank is saying Picasso A rig, Hog Farmer was out of stock. Yeah, Hog Farmers has been like the tradition of all that stuff, right? And dummy heads do my crazy American friends use. So Frank, that's interesting because I'm not a big A rig thrower. Why? Because I'm using in the rivers, in the water, or from shore. If I'm in boat, when I'm out with friends, I'm not throwing an A rig that much. So I couldn't answer that well. Let's see what anyone else says in chat. So if anyone sees an answer for that, because you can go a lot of different ways. I keep grabbing literally a mouse, like a handheld mouse on the side of this desk down here. It's not. I didn't connect it to the laptop. Rich is asking, let's see, how's the bite? Andrew, what's going on? Fishing the 262. Gary, what's going on, buddy? You're in. We see you. You're in. Darius, what's going on, buddy? Guys, listen, here's the thing. I don't always want to be the one. Like I said, I'm telling you what I'm thinking about doing. And a lot of the colorways, I have so many other colorways that I want to do. But I'm waiting to see if I want to do these with like collaborations with other companies. All right, Gary. All right, so let's give Gary a little piece. I keep grabbing this mouse. Maybe I should just plug it in, but I don't want more Wi-Fi happening here. So let's just go. Let's just bring this up. All right, Gary says, "Hey, Kuda, I wanted to comment on the firework jig from the Chicago guys. Tightrope, by the way, you had on previously. The hook on that jig has such a short barb to bend ratio. So here's what I'm going to tell you. I don't know what your experience has been with that, Gary, but I personally think that mustad, it's a mustad hook and it's 2x strong. And I think it's one of the best hooks in the industry. I really like it. But there's a couple things that you can mean by what you're saying. The hook on that jig is such a short barb to bend ratio. Yeah. Here's the thing. This is what I'm going to tell you. In my own opinion, Gary, like I said, so many different people. Really, Gary says, very hard to penetrate except the membrane. Not a fan of the short barb to bend ratio. Okay, fair. Interested that this is Gary's other comment. So here's the thing. Whenever, and I don't know all the details, Gary. There's only a couple of things I could say comparatively. So I know that whenever you're dealing with a 2x strong hook, that changes the game on everything, right? And so the tightrope jigs with the Mustad 2x is you can definitely use them with heavier lines. I will tell you this, that I use the 1/4 ounce tightrope jigs. I use the 1/4 ounce tightrope jigs, and I want a shorter shank. I want a shorter shank on every single jig that I make. And I'll tell you why. And that includes spinner baits. And everyone says longer shank. I want a shorter shank. And the reason is because it keeps the fish pinned better. The longer the shank, or the longer the from the head to the bend, the longer the shank. And this is my opinion. You might turn around and say, Murph, I disagree with you, which is okay. But my opinion is the shorter the distance between, or the shank itself until you get to the bend, the shorter that shank is. And I know you're not saying that. I know I'm just throwing this out there on my own end. I don't want a super long shanked jig with less hook gap. And the reason is because the more leverage they have, the more they can throw the hook. You're talking about the hookup itself, and I get that. So with any type of needle cut, you should be able to get that hook in unless you're using a different line. I was starting to say on the 1/4 ounce jigs, this is what I use those jigs on. This is no joke. I don't like throwing a lot of 1/4 ounce jigs. I do not like throwing a lot of 1/4 ounce jigs on my medium or definitely not medium light. You'll never catch me throwing a 1/4 ounce jig on a medium light spinning rod ever. Medium, I will, but I will tell you anything once you get to a 1/4 and up, you lose a little bit. But I want a medium heavy spinning rod. I will throw the 1/4 ounce also of those jigs on my bait casting rods. And the reason is because I'm putting a trailer on, and by the time it's all buttoned up, the thing's probably closer to 3/8 of an ounce. But it's interesting, that's stout but hard to penetrate through the roof of the mouth. Gary, I've heard people say that. And listen, I'll tell you a little secret. Gary's saying because the distance, I was talking, Gary. Sorry, I'll read the other ones. Because the distance barb to bend. Okay, got you. The barb doesn't have enough space to penetrate through the roof of the mouth due to the thickness of the mouth. Right. But you know what? Yeah, I don't know. That has not been my experience. But if that's your experience, that's your experience, And some guys, Gary, interesting enough, there's some people that will tell me they like longer, they want longer shanks, they want wider hook gaps. There's guys, listen, here's a number. Matt's saying, to be honest, if a hook has a sharp enough point, a good bend, you'll stick them. The barb just keeps the hook from backing out, but doesn't take more effort to penetrate the larger the barb. The hook point should be the one, like when you see jigs or hooks that have like cutting points, and minus me knowing all the technological terms for physically what the hell's going on. If something has a cutting point, imagine just like slashing. It's not just the point. When it's laser sharpened, it's the point going in and everything else is sliding in. But when it's a cutting point, that point is much more angled in terms of when it's laser sharpened. I fucking don't know what my terms, but what that does is it creates a larger hole in the fish's mouth and allows it to throw it more. Yeah, Garrett, you know what? It is the key to getting it hooked. I will tell you this, and you know what? You guys will laugh at me. There's a lot of times I'm using mono on the rivers, and I'll use a medium heavy rod or a medium rod, and I'm using monofilament, 8-pound, and I use those tightrope jigs on 8-pound mono line. So just imagine that too. So, Andrew makes a good point here. 1/8 ounce or greater is casting gear for me. That's real interesting, Andrew, because 1/8 ounce to me, I'm looking at your comment and I'm like, you're crazy. But that's your experience, right? For me, it's anything a quarter and above, I'm thinking I'm considering my bait casting gear. But when I throw jigs on a bait casting rod, I classically like to minimally have them 5/16 or 3/8. It's just how it is. A quarter, I will go down to my spinning stuff. Mario is saying, yes, you were spot on with the leverage. Even in saltwater application, downfall with those hooks. And just for the record, I know Gary wasn't saying that with the hook, the shank length, but that was like my thinking on some of this. Gary's comments were more about that barb to bend. Downfall with those hooks in saltwater, the black nickel, it will rust if you don't wash them out. Right. So true. Gary says, I'm not getting his point. The bend is so short, the barb never gets all the way through the mouth. It only gets a little way into the flesh. I'll be honest with you, Gary, maybe on your fish, but that's not my experience on mine, and like I said, we all have different experiences, right? So like your point's just as valid as anyone's, right? And mine, anyone. And I've heard people say the same thing you're saying before. So I don't want to discredit that at all because I think it's fair. That's your experience. Tom's in a tent. Andrew's saying he hates trocar hooks. Darius VMC boxer jig had 1/8 and quarter on my A rig. Great. Okay, so Frank, there you go. Darius has some advice for you for sizes. Okay. And then here we go. Bass is saying 1/4 ounce jig on my medium heavy casting rod all the time. Rich, I have a dedicated bait caster for light jigs or weightless plastic. Rich, that's interesting, especially with all the BFS stuff, which is the bait finesse system or whatever it is. I got a bait finesse system too. It's called my thumb. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I know some of you might like it. That's cool. Like it. That's not my thing, Rich is saying I have a dedicated bait caster for light jigs, right? Which I think is interesting. That's why I think the bait for that stuff comes in. But you got to understand, from my perspective, it's kind of like as a river guy, like I learned to do different things. To me, weight on a spinning rod. See, you know what? I feel like I partly misled you guys by saying this. I would say that my comment about the 1/4 ounce weight on spinning rods often has to do with when I'm bass fishing. Just being honest. If I'm walleye fishing, it's a little different. Why? Because I'm more likely doing a vertical presentation and just fishing a little bit differently. The other time that we fish for walleyes is when they come up at night on like sand flats in the rivers or inside bends and stuff like that. We like to do that as well. Andrew, my BFS system is a spinning rod. Let's see. I never seen a hook with that little barb to bend. Gary, you should not use those jigs because once that gets in your head like that, you're done. You know what I mean? Like you just know there's certain jigs that aren't your thing. Okay, so Frank has some. That's great. So Matt says, I'm one of the few weirdos crushes barbs on my frogs in large jigs because I always felt the barb takes more effort to get in, almost like using a barbless hook. It's interesting, Matt, because that's what the saltwater guys will say. It definitely, guys, if you see Mario's in the room, if you go on Instagram and see Mario stuff, mugging them up bucktails on Instagram, Mario's throwing big old striper jigs, right? With big old hooks and 6, 7, 8 hooks. And you want to talk about barbs, that's the real deal. Andrew, maybe Gary's in his own head, but I'll be honest with you, based on the way he's talking, he's got to do his thing. You know what I mean? Like once you sit there and think that, hey, this is not going to work for me, you 110% should figure out other options, right? And the reason is because, your mind in fishing is everything, so he's just as right to say that. If that's his experience, then he's got to do his thing. Yeah, Matt's saying it rubbed off on him. The salt has taught me so many things we would consider the opposite for bass. I agree with that, Matt. To be honest with you, the salt has made me a better designer in terms of color too. Yeah. Well, all right, Gary's on it. He's got his idea. Gary's out. Hey, that's the title of the show tonight, guys. Why your hooks suck, right? Darius is saying we can use 5 hooks and 4 1/8 ounce and 1/4 ounce on the center wire. Okay, good. The bass professor said your hookup ratio will increase if you pinch the barbs. See, look at all this craziness. What's funny is I like talking about some of this, and inherently, this wasn't even what I was going to talk about tonight. I was going to say some things. You know me. Sometimes I say things. I'm a happier fellow lately. I don't know what to say. You guys like my clickers? These are the best things in the world. 1.5s. You get my clickers. This is what I use when I have to tie because I can't see. So I got my clickers. Got to put them down on my nose a little bit. Right? That's what I do. And I'm not looking to catch any of you fine people. So it doesn't matter. Yeah, Garrett, I'm glad you did, buddy, because that's the thing. And of all shows, this isn't the one where we're kissing anyone's ass. I can tell you that. That's not happening. I've used all kinds of hooks, right? I am really I'm going to wait a little bit. I'm having some conversations with a company right now, and I'm waiting. There's some interesting things that I might be playing around with some ball head style jigs. Yeah, so I'm going to try some new hooks. But what I'll tell you is, if my area wasn't so messy down here and everything, I'd go grab boxes. But here's what I'm going to tell you. I want to say this, and this show's not getting dumped. I am 110% done entirely with Victory hooks. Done. Absolutely done. And I'm not afraid to say it anymore. No one owns me. I'll tell you why. I made a post one time on Instagram. This is like one example. Actually, is the jig over here? Let me see. Let me turn on the light. Let me see. The jig might even be over here. I'm going to put on these readers. Right? Let's see. This might even be the jig. Yeah. This is the jig. You're not going to be able to see it. Let's see. Hold on. Let's see if we could see. Look at, how much time stuff like this takes to make? You know how much time? Right? By the time you paint it, you cast it, you cast it. And I'm going to say this, right? Because I want to say it. By the time you pour it, let me look. I want to make sure I'm not missing anyone. Amen on the Victory. I'm done with them too, Larry says. Bass is talking about to use some of these guys. I'll catch up some of these. Andrew's saying Victories suck. They're hot garbage. Let me see if I could show this to you. And you know what? I don't care if this, people don't like it, then tough. Then don't make shit. How about that? How's that for freaking how things should go? Let me see if I could show this. No, of course you're not going to be able to see. Go look at a post on my Instagram where I posted this jig. I took the time, my monkey ass took the time to make this jig. casted it, poured it in lead, right? I guarantee. Oh, look at this. Johnny DeMay's in the house. Look at this. Let me just highlight this as I talk. I took the time to cast this jig. So, Victory, when you listen to this, stop selling people shit. I took the time to cast this jig, right? My time. I took the time to make that skirt. I took the time to hand tie it. I took the time to look at that pretty little eyelet. I made everything look pretty on this. Oh, where's the barb? Oh, Gary. Oh, Mr. Barb, Gary. Gary, I'm going to call you Gary. Gary the Barb. Gary the Barb, man. Yeah, where's the barb on that jig? The barb is there. I don't know if you can catch a little. You see a little, guys, keep in mind, I'm only using the laptop here. I don't have a regular camera. Let me move back a little bit. You could see it a little bit. I did all these things going, man, I can't wait. I'm making hot jigs, right? I put the eyes on. Couple of coats of Sally Hansen spinning on that pretty ass wheel I have upstairs, right? All these things. Weed guard, glued it in. It takes a lot of time to make a jig with eyes. It just does, right? The barbs. It's a great mold. Do it has a great mold here. I really enjoy it. Has a great mold. I love these keepers on this jig. All these nice things, right? And then I post a picture, and my stupid ass didn't catch that the freaking hook point is rolled over on the tip of that jig. That's not okay. My fault. Guys, listen, you get hooks and they're not always perfect, right? They're not always perfect. And that happens in every brand. Every brand. It's just how it is. Mustad, Gamakatsu, Owner. You're going to get a bum hook. Let's get this light off, especially when I show the chromer. You see that shine? Holy smokes. We'll get back to the red light district. You know what? I'm sorry that these hooks suck. That's the title of the show tonight. Do your hooks suck? And these suck. I could show you thousands of hooks. Thousands of hooks I have sitting over there. And you know what? There are some better than others. There are some better than others, but it's not my job to go tell you and sort through which ones are better than others. I will if you really want me to, and I'll tell you all the ones that suck too. And the reason I held off on saying all this, I'm going to tell you why. Because I have some friends that use their hooks. That's the truth. And I'm not going to say more than that because I'm not here to knock anyone. Because I think I have some friends that make some awesome jigs that there's been plenty of stud winners, guys. I had a batch of every hook that they make that I have used and I've had great success with. I've had great success with them. Ned's, weedless, the new weedless darter heads. Some of those hooks are great. Gary, don't worry. I haven't forgotten about you and talking about where's that barb at. We're going to talk about that too. But I've had great success with all of them. The 60-degree eyes, I've had great success with some of them. And then some of the other ones are hot garbage. And the hook points are rolled over. And no offense, but here's another thing that I found out. With some of their ones, I know, Tom, what happened to good old Eagle Claw? No offense, Tom, I'd rather use Eagle Claw over some of these things. And I'll tell you why. One, because the hook points are either rolled over before you even get them, or once they hit the water, they look at a rock. They look at a rock and they roll over. That's not my fault. It's not my fault. And if there are people out there not telling you that, they're not telling the truth. They're not telling the truth. So I just can't. I'm not going to stay quiet anymore. I did for a long time. It's not my fault. I'm a guy trying to make good jigs and teach people stuff. And I told myself I wanted to remember, Gary, I actually like Gamakatsu a lot. I really do. And I think some people prefer other things, but I really enjoy Gamakatsu a lot as well. But I do like other things. There's certain owner hooks I like. All right, so let me digress for a second. I'm going to go back and check because you're here. You take the time to say stuff. I don't want to leave you out, and then I'll go back to some other talk about this. So I go right back to Gary. Where's the barb on that jig? Okay. Dem is saying high temps of lead melting are inconsistent and too high at times. John DeMay, Dem Jig says this messes with the molecular structure of the metal. Hooks break. They do. That happens as well. That's another factor. If you don't like it, don't make shit. Michael Bradley, I'm going to make you a sticker like that. Larry's here. Gary saw finally saw the barb. It's a little thing. Larry, guys, I'm just saying. Larry says I have a bag of inconsistencies with them Victory hooks. A jig poured on Victory is a single-use jig, garbage. Now you know to check before hand. You live and learn, right? I always use owner when possible. I like owner 5313s. They're nice jigs. Some people don't like the 5318s, but I like the 5318s. They're just like the 5313s, except they don't have a downturned bend. They're supposed to be a little stiffer. I don't know. I used to pour, when I started pouring jigs, I started pouring on the 5318s. That's the truth. I just got used to using them. Snatching Lips, what's going on, buddy? They can't make a large size hook for shit. Their smaller hooks are okay, but I won't buy them. Larry's saying Victory 604 versions seem to break a lot. Went back to good old Gamma 604. Larry, that is definitively true. The Victory 604, why is there an exact replica of a Gamakatsu 604? Just saying. The Victory 604, I won't use them. I'm going to open a restaurant, bar, tackle shop, and call it hot garbage, right? I'm going to open a restaurant. Okay. I'd rather someone tell me a product I'm going to be using or making is crap than lie and say it's a good bait. Mario's talking about 3407 DTSSs are beasts. Yeah, they are. Mario, is that the jig you use? Mario did a video one time where he actually took two different hooks and he bent them in like a piece of wood or on his workbench or whatever it was, and he showed the difference between the two. Mario, do you remember the video I'm talking about? I'm not sure what you were using there. Garbage plates, Little Rich. So, guys, a couple things. I want to qualify this. When we talk about the things we don't like in this world, we have to be able to say good things about things as well. I've made some fantastic jigs with I made some. Yeah, Mario, thank you, buddy. The one that bent was 3484. You guys, go look at Muggin, 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 MEM, Muggin and Bucktails on Instagram. And he has a video way back where he shows he bends two hooks and you see the difference. It's pretty interesting, but definitely saltwater hooks and bigger stuff. So, guys, like I said, here's the good thing. There are some great hooks that I've had with them, and I don't know what happened, but I don't have time to be sorting through as much as I am with what is junk and what isn't. That's their quality control problem, and they're a newer company, and they got to get their shit figured out. Because I've watched some good people get burned by them, and it's not fair for people to be out there trying to put good stuff out there and then have letdowns in time. Now, I just want to say for the record, as I said, guys, I was hesitant to say some of this stuff because I have a lot of friends out there that have made jigs and sell sell jigs. And I have friends that still sell jigs. So I don't know. Maybe I'm going to take heat for this, but I couldn't show up anymore. There have been a lot of good batches. And I promise you, anyone I know wouldn't sell you junk. I promise you that. There are some people out there just making them willy-nilly. They have no idea how to make jigs. They have no idea what they're doing, and they're putting it out there. That's not okay, because those guys don't even know what they're doing to begin with. But when people knowingly, that can't happen. And so there are people that will not use some of these jigs or hooks. Hooks. I don't want to say jigs. But I'm just telling you, Mustad has their problems sometimes too. Oh, look at this. Tom says, Jim Gaffigan is awesome, Frank. I have a tensile test machine. I can measure hook bend strength. Okay, so listen, while we're there, I love all the diner talk. We should have like a cool diner talk night, and we should freaking come up with the restaurant names we want. So here's the other thing. I've looked in packs, and I look and I see it's not the wrong size in a pack. The hooks are different diameters. How can that be? How can that be? Then half the hooks, half of the hooks, not just some, half of the hooks, the barbs are all different sizes. The barbs are all different sizes. How is that possible? How is that possible? I'm not here to pick on people. I'm just here to straight up say this has been my experience. And maybe in the things I got were bad batches. I don't know. Maybe people I know are not going to be mad at me after this. I have no idea. But I will tell you this. I absolutely refuse to stand by and watch that happen to consumers when that's how things go. So Andrew's saying that's another thing. How does that happen? The 90s, so the vertical incline on like a 90-degree jig from shank to eyelet have different distances. How is that? How does that happen? I could see anything going wrong, right? But why is there so much of it? Vote with your wallet, people. That's how you do things. I don't know what to say. If you get some and you love them, I definitely think everything's worth trying. If you get some and you look at them, you just have to be very careful in inspecting them, right? You just have to be very careful in inspecting them. I personally feel that the 60 and 30-degree eyed hooks, actually the 60-degree eyed hooks are one of the better ones, to be honest with you. That's my opinion. I don't know the exact number, but whatever ones have the 60-degree eye, those are pretty good hooks. The 30-degree eyes, you start running into problems with. And the finesse ones, even if they look good, once they hit the water, they're breakdown jalopy city. I don't like the 604s. I don't like I just don't. I don't the 105.75s. I've had some of the old 105.75s, which are basically designed off of the old, like that original Eagle Claw designed hook, and I've had batches of those that were great, right? And I like those for different applications because they bend out in river situations. I like that. Let's see, what's Frank saying? Limited edition variety pack CUDA, high resale value if you keep it in its original package, right? So I don't know, guys. Listen, I'm just telling you my experience. And like I said, I realize I don't stir pots. But man, if you're cooking up multiple pots of junk and you want everyone to keep sipping on it like it's freaking good stuff, not interested. That's not how things should go. And, if you're going to put things out, you better make sure they're good. That's it. And it's not fair. People shouldn't. There is always, you guys, I'm going to say it again. I'm not going to keep going back to it because I don't owe anyone qualifying anything on this. When you make hooks or you make something and you put it out there, it's supposed to work. There is always a percentage of things when high level manufacturing occurs, volume, hooks, right? As an example, that you're going to have some things, there's going to be errors. There's mechanical errors that happen in the process, and that is normal. All hook manufacturers have it, but the volume and the amount of short distances on 90-degree ties, on the lengths, the barbs, the diameter, no barbs, small barbs, half barbs, cockeyed barbs, bent hooks. How does a hook come bent? Right. And I'm talking like you go through 50 of them and 25 of them are going to have some cockeyed feature to it. I don't know, guys. I'm just saying. So just buyer beware. When you sit there and if you want to try them out, do so. Because they're sticky sharp when the hook point's not rolled over. They're sticky sharp. Try them out and you find out for yourself. But this is my long-term experience, and I just have to be honest. But like I said, the 60-degree eye is probably one of the best the best hooks that I have good experience with. So, but anyway, that's the hooks, right? And everyone has different experience. Look at Gary talking about earlier, like he doesn't like the 2X Mustad, you know. So everyone's experience is their experience, right? So, but everyone should try for their own. And if anyone ever wants to know exactly which ones, you know, what I think of some of them, I'll let you, call me and I'll literally pull the box out. You know, I'll show you. You know, and you know what? Just so no one turns around and says I don't have. You know what? Let me grab some. I'll be right back, guys. It's not far away, but I do. Let me grab some of these, just so you know. I do know what I'm talking about. Let's see what we got. Just in case you watch this and somebody says, all right. So I have some Eagle Claws 570s, which I still like and use. And I have some Eagle Claw 413s in here. But besides that, just want to show you. Just in case anyone wants to say that I don't know what I'm talking about and I don't have any experience with these things. You see all the labels. You see what I have. Hold on. Yeah? Oh. Does Kuda know what he's talking about? Oh, he's not done yet? There's more? Does Kuda know what he's talking about? Love y'all to death, peeps, but yeah, I'm just telling you straight up. That's my experience. I can't change that story. It is what it is. And I'm not going to rag on him anymore. I said my thing. It is what it is. Andrew saying he throws a brush pile joke again. Kuda's hook collection is absurd. Andrew. And then, to be honest with you, I got boxes of Mustads and Gamakatsus over there, owners. No, you know what I have? Tom, funny enough, I have a nice little Diet Dr. Pepper with right here. Nice little Diet Dr. Pepper. Oh, by the way, Jig Squad. And I put this one on just a second ago for you, Gary. What's going on with that light? Tightrope. JP, what's going on, buddy? So, I mean, just some things out there, right? You think about some of these things. So, what are we going to do this winter, guys? So, why have people? Yeah, maybe so, man. Maybe it saves them some money, and vote with your wallet, right? Try them out, but vote with your wallet. Just like Gary and I did an 100% agree. Guess what? You may not agree with me, so try them out. But I could tell you this: there's a lot of silent people in the jig making industry that aren't speaking up, and You know, there's a lot of silent people in the jig making industry that are not speaking up. I'm not calling people out. I'm just straight up saying it is what it is. All right. Yeah, Garrett. I mean, I love the Chicago boys. You know how it is. You always like your homers, right? You always like your hometown people. I love JP and Ryan Whitaker. I'll be honest with you. I don't work for them, at all. I have no connections with them other than just being friends with them because we live, I don't know, 5 miles, 6, 7 miles apart. I'll be working with them at the shows. I'll go hang out with those guys at the shows at their booth this year. But yeah, like experiences are real, Gary, and no one can take that away from you. Gary, you know what? I will tell you this. If you have not tried their micros, they make an 1/8 and a 16th ounce. The black and white ones are like crazy in the spring. A 16th ounce and an 1/8 ounce. And they are still those Mustad 2Xs, but they're smaller. So basically you're going to have less diameter of hook that you're trying to put into a fish's mouth, and they're sticky sharp. So the hookup ratio if that's a thing for you, you should try those smaller ones in the spring. I think they have the black and green, the black and white are fantastic, and they're made with like a finer cut silicone. They're really nice. And then I think they have a couple other colors, but I don't have those. I only have the black and white ones. Gary, good for you, buddy. Micro finesse, dude. Gary, if you ever want to get on the phone and BS and talk, just send me a message. You could either email me at JIGSQUAD Fishing or chase me down on Instagram. And I'll always exchange numbers and mess around with just ideas with some of the micro stuff. Because it's fun. I really enjoy it. Darius likes going fishing in the winter. There you go, brother. Yeah, so guys, the finesse jig concept is gonna take off on a whole nother level. You might think it's here already. I don't even think this is the start of it. I think what you're gonna start seeing in 2024 is you are gonna start seeing people move away from the acts, right? And so what do I mean by that? It's not across the board. There's no way that'll ever happen. But what's going to happen is you're going to see people move away from the aughts. So the 1/0s, the 2/0s, and you're going to start seeing more and more people going down to the size 1, size 2, and you're even going to start catching some people on size 4s. Just a prediction. And that's going to be in like what Gary's talking about in the finesse game. I'll tell you why I say that. This is kind of just my own opinion. If you look at the amount of people that are throwing finesse baits, and you look at the Asian anglers that have come through the bass tours and the types of baits that they're throwing, more and more people are going to do it. And I think as you get more and more guys that transition from there's still a lot of pro guys that are not forward-facing sonar fans, right? But as they start transitioning, they're going to start throwing smaller baits. Why? Because when you're looking on a screen and you're watching how fast a bait falls, Andrew, where are you at? Andrew 262? He's going to know. The people have no idea how fast a jig really falls. And once they start getting into the forward-facing sonar scene, they're going to realize that, wow, if I want to see this jig, I really have to start thinking about the size jig I'm using, what trailer I'm using to have that thing float. It's why the hover jig is going to be extremely popular, more so going forward. You're going to see a lot more hover style jigs out there, not just like the core tackle. Huge shout out to Matt Steffen. Big fan of that company for what they decided to put together there. They took a real easy concept and made it into something cool. And you watch the number of companies that come out with hover style jigs for 2024. It's going to be a thing. So it's coming. But I'm guessing you're going to see smaller size hooks that start popping. Let's make sure. If I missed anything, you guys, I apologize. Sometimes I start talking, and I don't think I like hearing myself talk, but I feel I talk too much. Probably why I jumped on YouTube tonight. JP. All right. Jean Pierre, Frank, just fishing. Maybe it's just fishing. Let's see what Gary says. 316, max and craw in the 316 finesse jig. Yeah. You're going to start seeing a lot more 3/16 sizes as well, Gary. Interesting you said that, because people are going to want something just a little smaller than that quarter. Andrew, stop talking about the hover rig. Fall rate. Yes, Matthew, exactly. Nail weight on the hover. Just saying. One company does something, the other 15 follow suit. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Is there any facet of this industry that we have not seen that? You know what I mean? I'm not saying that's not true, Malone. Like I think you're right. But let me give you an example. I've had some like different feelings over time about, is somebody really copying something? Are they not? And then I get my own opinions on like jig styles and colors, and like, no, it is. It's really they're copying. And like sometimes I'll tell you who, South Jersey Bait Reviews, Matt. I mean, he really I like his perspective. Like he sits there and really says he enjoys this is my opinion of Matt, right? I could probably say tons of things about what I think about Matt, but one thing that I really like about Matt is he appreciates the creativeness that goes into some of the JDM and type things that he likes, and he likes the experience of having those new types of baits. And he wholeheartedly fishes the way those baits are intended to be made because he wants to get the fullest out of them. And I enjoy seeing that. I almost have gone in the opposite direction to an extent where I become a simpleton and gone to easier ways, right? And so like when I see Matt talk about stuff, South Jersey Bait Reviews, who's in chat tonight, like by the way, you guys, he has a YouTube channel, and when he gets on, it doesn't matter whether you're live or not. You should go back and watch some of his shows, because sometimes you'll get a feel for the stuff I'm talking about, right? Like he talks about, like he just gets into the purpose and intent behind some of the baits. And, let's be honest, in the States, like we don't want you to explain a lot of shit to us. Don't tell us about a lot of nothing. We just want to freaking go, and there is there's a lot of intent that goes behind design sometimes that people don't want to hear it, right? And that goes for a lot of the JDM stuff or inspired things that we start seeing. And people just don't fully get that, So, but anyway, just something. I digress. So Gary's saying, yeah, back to the bait finesse. It's hard. It's so funny, Gary. On any given night, if you ask me about bait finesse, I'm like, yeah, I could care less. But it's very interesting talking about this tonight, because we're talking about this weight variance of when we're going to throw things and when we're not. And it's got to be part of the equation, right? Because if you're a bait caster guy and you want to use a BFS system, you're going to use it. And it totally applies to some of these new things. People, size 1 is not going to shock people. Singular hooks. A size 1 singular hook is not going to shock people. A size 2 or a size 4 is going to. And I will tell you that the crappie guys are sitting there like, yeah, we've been saying this for years. And maybe I just gave you a little bit of a tip out there on, if you're a bass person or a finesse game person, of some things you should be doing if you're a tournament fisherman. I'm only going to say so much in this, because I really will have people at my doorstep if I say too much on this. You really should be paying attention to the last thing I just said. Okay. There are guys, size 4, who makes size 4 jigs. All I'm going to say is, if you could make friends with a crappie person, a crappie jig maker, and talk to them about doing some creative little things for you, or some things even varied from, there's a stereotypical crappie jig design that's out there, right? Chenille, it's got some marabou tailing, standard, right? Maybe different types of tailing, maybe different lengths, chenille, maybe a little flash thrown in. All these different things make all these crappie jig makers unique and cool. But what I'm saying is, if you could get a crappie jig guy, designer, to do some of your colors that you may want, and you're a bass guy, or even maybe even just something slightly different, or maybe that crappie jig style, but on the collar there's this little hackle of like that becomes like an overcoat of like a little bit of flash or a little bit of tinsel just hanging over the top. Hey, you guys, I'm telling you, there are people throwing this on the Great Lakes in big tournaments, and they're not telling anyone. So I gave you everything you need to go out and do it, but you got to go do it yourself. If you're a jig maker, you could go make it yourself. But if you're not, you should find a crappie jig maker and talk to them about olives and other things. Size 4, and I start to raise my eyebrows. Gare, okay, so here. I'm just reading comments. First one in the corner of the market, number 4 jigs with good hooks. Yeah, right. Yes, unique baits for sure. So, yeah, like Frank's saying, Kitech spin jigs. The spin jigs is a big game right now. But if you think about it like this, those little jigs are, what do they represent? Okay. You just change the way you think. You remember when Matt, South Jersey Bait Reviews, I don't know if you saw it earlier in the show, he made a mention of, I've learned a lot from the saltwater world. Okay, guys, let's get back to the reason I started Jig Squad. Start thinking about the other realms you guys used to hear me talk about when it came to jig types out there, whether it be the people that are making the hoochie jigs or the twitching jigs, chasing coho on the Northwest coast, whether it's the striper fishermen. Start thinking about other things we learned. The flounder fishermen down in Texas, do they do the same type of thing? It's some of the guys over in Florida, or are they doing it like fluke guys? I don't, guys, by the way, like I told you, I can't remember which one's which. Fluke, is that East Coast or is that flounder? I don't remember which ones, or the Texas and Florida guys. I don't want anyone to get mad at me. Fluke, flounder. But you guys get the idea. Oh, Gary, here you go. This is it. I'm still grabbing that damn mouse that isn't plugged in. Nymphs, larva, shrimp. You guys, if you Fluke is East Coast. All right, Matt. I knew somebody was gonna have that pretty quick. So just think about that. Okay, river systems. What? There's people go out fly fishing. I bet you the fly guys catch more smallies than any of us. Maybe not the drop shotter guys, but if you are a shallow water river fisherman, I'm telling you, man, the fly guys clean up. They clean up. Why? Those small little baits. The size 4 hook is big to them. You know, unless you're throwing big stripping streamers and stuff. A size 4 hook is big to them. Well, why can't you have a size 4 jig head? Here's another guy you should go look into. Go look at Rich Strolis. Okay? Rich Strolis, he's a fly tire. But he also started making jigs. And I'll tell you, the greatest chicanery that goes on, or fuckery that goes on in the world of fly making, is the fact that the fly guys, when they're casting 8th and 16th ounce jig heads, and they think we're a bunch of yahoos. All I know is just see what's out there. But I gave you the tips. Find a crappie maker and ask them if they have some other colors that you would like, and they'll do them. They sell those jigs for great prices too. You buy, you do what you're gonna do. If you want to make them yourself, try it. I just saying try it. Who just said the popping cork? Andrew says I still want to throw a popping cork for bass. Yeah, I know. It's probably going to make some noise and draw them in, you know, with like a floating, like Andrew, what are you saying? Like the float and fly technique, except the float is the popping cork. I freaking love it, dude. Frank says I catch a lot of smallies on my fly rod, right? So I think it's going to be real interesting to see what people come up with in 2024. And wild guess on my end, man, you know what? What would happen if I come out with a size 4 jig? I'm not planning to do that. I don't even know if I could take that risk. 2, maybe you're going to see a size 2 jig come out from Jig Squad. Just saying. A number 2 hooked jig. I don't know. Anything can happen. 4, I'm just being honest. You're really going to have to twist me. But I know for a fact there's guys chasing bass on the Great Lakes that the smaller the hook, the happier they are. So once you go below 4, you're changing things up a lot. Yeah, micro swim jig is needed. So start thinking outside the box, right? There's other things. So let's see here. So Frank's saying about the smallies. Matt's saying there's been some younger guys locally. They've been doing really good on flies for largies. They even caught a snakehead, which was awesome. Yeah, interesting. Yep, popping cork like the snook guys, redfish, trout guys all use. Oh, look at this idea. With a fluke behind it. There's another example. How many people? Oh, Andrew, that's a great idea. So why not a small little jig? Look at the teasers that they throw for stripers, teaser jigs, or in all kinds of fishing. What if you had a small little 16th or 32nd ounce jig? Let's call it a 32nd ounce. You could really run a 16th ounce on a size 4 if you really wanted to. Whatever. I mean, you dream it up and see what it looks like to you, what it is, and then you run a weightless fluke behind it just with the hook weight. I mean, what's that going to do for you? I don't know. The point is, yeah, Frank, Z-Man makes tiny swim jigs, right? So understand something, you guys. This was my entire intent. This is why I decided if I'm going to get into this market, I'm going to get into the market with a finesse football. An 1/8 ounce because I love 1/8 ounce. And it's the most all-around diverse jig that I can throw. But now it's funny because I have people throwing my jigs for largemouth almost as much as I am for smallmouth. So one person said, I just realized there's no weed guard in it. I go, yeah, you don't need it because half the people are swimming it. I designed it where you're popping it along ridges, rock lines, but it's getting swam a lot too. And, to be honest with you, people will tell you a ton. The football head is only going to give you just a little bit different variance in terms of how it starts to move through the water. I personally believe it starts to initiate a little bit more action and wider wobble in what you're going to use if you're using like a paddle tail. So it almost helps it. It helps it get a little more weight unbalanced and a little more roll. So whatever. The float and fly in Dale Hollow and get giant smallmouth. So it's the same concept, Darius, right? Tin style hooks in those sizes, Kuda, like that number 3 or number 4 range. Actually, there are, Matt, and I think. I in order to give a better answer to that, I think they're all my hook bags. Oh, this is my hook bag for saltwater. No, this is my hook bag for like just some Gami wide gap hooks. That's my. There are some tin hooks. They're all like some of the ones that I would say are Matt, like the SL12. These are all big game hooks, by the way, the ones I'm about to tell you. But for our purposes, they're all big game that they'll use for heavy saltwater flies. SL12, SL11, they're all Gamakatsu. Gamakatsu SL12, Gamakatsu SL11. You know what I'll do, Matt? We'll have to talk and then we'll connect and I'll FaceTime and I could show you the shape of some of those heads. But any of the Gamakatsu tin ones are really nice. And they actually serve really well. There's obviously Tiemcos are good, Mustads are good. There's a lot of different other brands, but I just think economically, like those Gamakatsus are good priced. And there's a lot of good ones. I have familiarity with the Gamakatsu ones, a couple of Mustad ones. The cool thing with the Mustad hooks, those smaller hooks, 3 or 4 size, are that they're really starting to get into like the Duratin and like different nano coatings on the hooks. That are really good. And you know what? To be honest with you, if you throw a fluke or another bait, there's no reason Here's another thing for you guys. There's no reason why you can't be throwing a top water or a any other bait that you're going to throw and tie a fly on it like 2 feet up the line. You know, like that does a lot of damage. There's guys out there that do that in front of Zara spooks like crazy. And so like you can use some of the saltwater flies and you can literally just learn to tie on a cheap $20 vise. All you gotta do is buy some thread, a bobbin, and you just some tinsel. You can actually use a lot of stuff from like what's it called? Home Hobby Lobby and some Michaels, wherever the craft stores are. Real simple stuff. And the saltwater, man, you know what I'm talking about because the striper guys do a ton of it. Leaders. But we'll talk about some of those front runner. Yeah. So Gary, what's front runner? Just I mean the term front runner, or is that a brand? I know a lot of stuff. There's some things I don't know. It's just how I am. I'll try and take pictures for you too, Matt. So you see Matt, here's another tip for you. Even if you don't have the jigs for them, if you get those hooks, all right, let's just do it. Let's just say it. So here's the next tip. You also, Matt, can get those hooks and you could put tungsten slotted beads, which you can get at any fly shop or order online, tungsten slotted beads on the head and make your own. And you could do you could literally use, you could go get a roll of yarn, acrylic yarn at the hobby store, and you could cut off a little piece of acrylic yarn and take a brush and comb it out and just pull some of the fibers out and tie it around that hook behind the slotted bead. This does not have to be, next level fly tying. You could make your own with little slotted beads. And then that way, to be honest with you, it becomes a fun little thing that you get to do to get creative and make some things up. And if anyone ever decides to do that, I call me, get in touch with me, and I will direct you to some specific products at like Hobby Lobby or the hobby stores that you could get that would help you tie your own things up. Pretty simple. So basically it would function. As a matter of fact, I have a friend that uses hooks like that and uses slotted tungsten beads, and it slides on a jig and it almost looks exactly like a small jig. And then you could tie whatever little material you want on there. Tons of stuff that you find available at Barlow's, all stuff like that. Like Barlow's has tons of stuff that you could throw on there. Yes, absolutely, Garrett. Smaller lure in front of a larger lure. Yeah, Matt, you're correct. So Gary's asking too. No, Matt, are you asking about what brand of underspins? I make my own, but I I personally think my all-time favorite underspin, to be honest with you, is it's called Cool Baits. They're out of California. And the reason, you know what, Matt? They might not have the slotted tungsten beads at Hobby Lobby. I'm not sure, but I know you can order them online. I guarantee, actually, Matt, even if you just start looking around and get an idea on sizes, and if you have to, I guarantee you can get them on Amazon. And just to play around with, like you could get a variety of colors and just have some fun. Like you almost would you would put yourself in a situation for the winter where you can go and do some fun playing around, making your own small little jigs or teasers. It would be fun. Underspins, I like the Cool Bait lures. That's one of the first ones that came out that had some sample swivels on it that were super, super nice, and they started up really well. We use those on the Great Lakes, but they're super expensive. I think that a lot of guys have had a ton of success with that Great Lakes finesse underspin. I've made my own. That's basically what I've done. There are people out there to tell you that on the underspin that you need that. A lot of them will be straight down, and then people will tell you it's got to be like this. Actually, I should go like that because the blade slides down and it doesn't get caught up. I don't buy that. The reality is if this is the jig hook and your wire is hanging straight down, the blade's going to be right here. It's not getting caught up on anything. So people say that they want it, they want it angled, so that way it's not getting fouled as much and it's hanging lower past part of the body of the bait. Guys, it's simple. You got to use the right size blades. If it's vertical and hanging directly below the jig, the blade's down here, and when you move through the water, it's going to go that way. It's going to go that way. Um, if it fouls, it's basically you want to make sure the distance on the wire gap is the size. You don't want the blade to be bigger than the distance of the wire gap to where the bend is on the wire. And you could change out blades. You could buy a pack of blades on Amazon. I think the size is oh gosh, is it a size 2 willow? I got some other cool. There's a lot of cool stuff you could get. Here's some other things that you could buy. Here's some other options. Let me see what size this is. I don't think they say the size on here. Here's another cool product. This is a Picasso Lures underspin. I don't think I have anything open. So basically, it's a ball bearing to these little wire keepers they used to put rattles on, right? They made these things and they're making like a fortune off of them. So it's a small little willow blade connected to a ball bearing swivel that is connected to one of these little rubber arms. So these are great. I think, and you can get those in gold, but I honestly think if you go to like any of the tackle making places like Barlow's and stuff like that, you could buy those singular arms. You could buy those arms and kind of make them yourself. And you can always use heat shrink as well. The thing is just be willing to be creative. Maybe actually I'll do a show on that sometime. I'll try and get some product. I'll get some stuff in and talk about making those on your own and playing around. Gary, size 1 are good. Size 2 for heavier heads. Thanks for saying that because I forgot what size it was. But guys, you may not be a finesse person. You may not want to do that. But definitely don't be afraid to play around with some of the heads that are out there and doing some things. Yeah, Colin's saying 60-degree bend in the eye. Yep. And Colin, what else does Colin say? Most Euro jig fly fishing use 60-degree jig hooks in appropriate size to the weight you want. Yeah, Colin actually brings up a good point here because Colin's a tire. And so a lot of people will tie up on those jig heads, Matt, or anyone else, not just the ones that I was throwing out. There's so many others. They'll use a lot of tungsten beads. I'm glad Colin said this because this is a good correction. Even though you can use them on the hooks that I've talked about, you're talking a straight-eyed hook, meaning the line is it's in parallel to the shank, right? So it's just at the end. There's no bend. What Colin's talking about, you could buy small jig hooks that have a 60-degree eye and they use the slotted tungsten beads on those. And that's another great little option. It looks more jig-like. Like a lot of the fly guys will tie their jigs on that style. So it's a 60-degree eye jig hook, and it has the slotted tungsten on there that almost takes the place of the lead or tungsten, whatever you want to say is used. But in this case, you would use a slotted tungsten bead, and you can kind of create your own little stuff with it. So, yeah, fly tires. Yeah, Colin's a fly tire and a jig tire. So just a couple of helpful little things. It'd be probably kind of fun to do a show on that some night and start pulling out product and kind of showing you what some of these things are. Cause I know I have smaller blades. I personally, I'm going to be honest with you. The reason I brought up the slotted tungsten beads, because I want to play around with that. I actually would like to do some of this myself. The only intimidating part is knowing what size of the tungsten beads I want to get. Cause I have in my head the classic everything I don't think it's weight based. So I need to talk to somebody that's going to educate me a little bit more on the weights that get associated with the slotted tungsten beads. Cause I associate everything with weight when it comes to that. The size doesn't matter as much to me. I want to know what weight it is because I want to know what weight teaser I'm going to make, right? Or jig, or if I'm just using it as like a jig, then I'm going to float. Colin saying I've used a size 6 jig and would use a 4mm size. Okay, so that's good advice. 4mm is probably a good starting weight. Do they make them heavier, Colin? Let me see if I can do a plug in here while I'm talking because my battery's running low. So I do have a charging cord around here. Just gotta find it. We got a lot of things around here. What is this? Holy smokes. Don't want to run out. All right, you guys, listen. Where am I at? Let me check real quick. Battery, 6%. So we're going to run out soon. I just went to reach for my charger, and I don't know where it's at. So just some stuff to play around. Maybe we'll do a show on that. We'll start trying to gain a little more information on this, and it could be fun things. Frank's saying, hold on, Frank, I don't want to miss you, because when Frank says you're a genius, he's a genius. We got to make sure we give him credit. The bottom runner, little crayfish imitation, line ties front and rear, tie a jig head and paddle tail out of Huddleston behind it. Looks like a distracted fish that's an easy target. Bam! Just like that, Frank. Just like that. Folks, this is Jig Squad. I hope you had fun tonight. Actually, some cool conversation. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's what we should do once in a while. So you guys heard my opinions on some hooks earlier today. Definitely try things out for yourself, right? There are good hooks, bad hooks, and some have more bad hooks than others. But there are definitely some strengths for some of the hooks I've mentioned today. But buyer beware. You got to know what you're getting yourself into, and you should try them out yourself so you know whether you have a good batch or not. Because when they're good, they're sticky sharp. Be good to each other, folks. Let's do some talks in the future about slotted jig hooks and designing some of those things, and maybe learn together as the year goes along. I appreciate all you guys. If you're interested in buying any jigs, chase me down on Instagram. I am selling all my colorways in the 1/8 ounce finesse football, micro football. It's got a 1-aught hook and it sticks fish. So I appreciate you all. Have a good evening, folks. Oh, we'll do the outro because we haven't done this for a while. Where's the outro? Outro. I didn't do the intro tonight. Here we go. Peace, people. Have a good night.